Welcome to the Mom Initiative. I'm Angela Mackey, and I'm so glad you stopped by today. I want to encourage you to do two things to help your kids when it comes to obedience. And I'm not talking about just outward obedience, because moms, let's get real, our kids can obey outwardly and it still not be satisfying. When we tell our kids to go to their rooms and they stomp their feet to the room and slam their door, they have done outwardly what we want them to do, but inwardly they have no motivation. It's all an external motivation for obedience. And we want our kids, as moms, to have a heart to obey us, because God tells obey your parents for this in the Lord, for this is right. And we want our kids to know to obey God, because God loves them and wants what's best for them. And so we want to develop in them an internal motivation for obeying. We don't want it just to be an external force. So how do we do that? Well, as moms, we need to ask two simple questions. First thing, it's what are you thinking? And second thing, it's what are you feeling? You see, often when we do something, we act on our emotions and we turn off our brains. When we do something that's not quite right, right? When we do something that's right or good, that's because we've got both our brain and our heart working together, right? So when our child pinches somebody because they took a toy, what we need to do is, when they are calm enough to talk about it, we need to say, not only why did you pinch and find out the situation, but we need to ask, what were you thinking when you pinched and how were you feeling? And then we need to help our children develop new ways of thinking. You see, when somebody does you wrong, instead of pinching, we need our kids to think, how can I make this right? First, I need to ask nicely for the toy back, because I would want somebody to ask me nicely if I had their toy. Second, we need to think, if that person is not going to do what is right, instead of pinching to try to get them to do what is right, I need to ask for help. And you see, the only way we can discover what they need help with or how they need help is to ask them, how are they thinking? And suddenly, when we ask our kids how are they thinking, they become critical thinkers. They become critical thinkers of not only what's going on around them, but they become critical thinkers of what's going on in their emotions. Because how often do our emotions lie to us? The Bible tells us in Jeremiah 17:9 that our heart is deceitful above all else and desperately sick. Who can understand it? So when our kids feel like nobody loves them, we want them to understand that that's a lie that their heart is telling them. When our kids feel like there is no recourse other than pinching or kicking or biting or hitting, we want their brains to stop that emotional response and think through, what are some ways that I can get what I need? What are some ways that I can make this right? But we can't do that unless we're asking our kids those two simple questions. What are you thinking and what are you feeling? So moms, I want to challenge you today. Don't just discipline without asking those questions. Don't just praise a child for what they've done without asking those questions. When you held that door open for that person, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? That will help provide internal motivation for your children to do what is right. It'll provide ways of thinking that will help them control their emotions and thus control their behavior. And when we get at the heart and at the mind, we're going to drive them to the feet of Jesus, because they're going to know they need help, right? And we're going to show them that God can help them. So moms, I challenge you, ask those two questions. What are you thinking? And what are you feeling? So that we can help guide our kids in molding their hearts and their minds, and not only their behavior. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I pray that you will be able to use those tools to help your kids have the internal motivation to do what is right.